called Kashmir. So before I introduce our very well-known panelists for this session, let me introduce you to relatively unknown truth about Kashmir. Now, where did this Kashmir erupt? A lot of people think it erupted somewhere around 1947. The truth is that centuries before British landed in India, centuries before India got partitioned, centuries before Pakistan came into existence, centuries before the Kashmiri Muslims existed, mostly as a part of forced conversion in the valley, centuries before that, Kashmir, the golden glory of crown of Indian civilization, existed. It existed as a node center of scholarship in Sanskrit, Hindu scriptures, Buddhist scriptures, and more importantly, Kashmir gave the world the pristine philosophy of Kashmiri Shaivism. Now, the one single community who was predominantly there almost 900% in Kashmir Valley was the indigenous people of Kashmir, who are called Kashmiri Pandits, Kashmiri Hindus, or Kashmiri Bhattas. But then the question comes, what happened? Today, the population of Kashmiri Hindus residing in Kashmir Valley is not even 1%, less than that. What happened? Well, Kashmir got conquered by Islamists around early 14th century, around 1323 CE. And with that began the religious persecution of Kashmiri Hindus, massacres, murders, and with the result, Kashmiri Hindus kept on migrating from that place. 7 exodus have taken place with regard to Kashmiri Hindus from Kashmir. And on the top of it, what happened was that in the most recent years, around 1988, 91, 1990, 91, what happened was the genocide of Kashmiri Hindus happened, ethnic cleansing happened because of rise of Islamic terrorism in Kashmir. This, my friends, is the bitter truth about Kashmir. Not only the Dal Lake is Kashmir, this is part of Kashmir too. Now, you may think about why does it really happen? I know a lot of us are very idealistic who want to see the world in the most rosy way. All of us want to be not thinking about religion. All of us want to be very progressive. All of us want to say, I'm beyond all that. And world is all great. That's partially true. But when we grow up from the childish ignorance, we see that ugly part of the world is as much a fact of life. And to deny is not being adult. Now, if you really look at the international trends, or if you look at the world history today, you see that there are 3, or I would say 2 major so-called curses of humanity which have emerged. One curse of humanity is that there is that continued tendency of certain religions to dominate, to tell the world, my God alone is the big God, and my religion alone is the most superior, and all of you have to convert to it, otherwise I will kill. And this kind of religious intolerance have led to religious persecutions. It has led more recently to religious terrorism or Islamic terrorism, which is currently much more prevalent worldwide in Kashmir too. This is one curse of humanity that we are dealing with. The other curse is with regard to the tendency, or I would say, the unbridled lust and passion of certain countries to keep expanding, the instinct of expansionism, the instinct to dominate militarily, economically, and to keep crossing the boundaries to acquire more of territorial land from other countries, mostly from neighbors, so that they could maintain their so-called superpower status And the best example of that currently is China. Now, if you ever want to see how the nexus between all of these is really working out, you don't have to go far away. You focus on Kashmir, you focus on Ladakh, you focus on Tibet. They will cry out to you the story about nexus of these curses of humanity. And that's where we really have that when we discuss Kashmir issue, a lot of people discuss it in a very more naive way, and they think it must be a problem of some dispute. If that was the case, then the genocide of Kashmir would not have happened, because Kashmiri Hindus are the original inhabitants of Kashmir. There is more to it. There is religious intolerance part of it. There is geopolitical issues involved. There is territorial dispute involved. There is historical baggage involved. All of that is put together. So what we really have today is that we have assembled this very expertise, or I would say subject expertise-based panel today, very diverse from internationally. The idea here is to kind of just sit back and have a relaxed conversation, a discussion with all of them to figure out the intricacies and overlappings of this complexity that I talked about. And one of the reasons why a lot of people, people make predictions about Kashmir, sit in academia and talk about of Kashmir and still miss the point is because they don't get the whole story. They get part of the story. And here is where I really want to go with our panelists, and we'll come back to many of these issues as we discuss. So to get started, I want to spend a little bit of time here to introduce to you our distinguished panelists. We have Rajiv Malhotra here with us. He is an Indian-born American author, founder, director of Infinity Foundation, New Jersey-based, and this is a prominent think tank. He is also a researcher, speaker, a public intellectual on current affairs as they relate to civilizations, cross-cultural encounters. That is Rajiv Malhotra. Welcome. Welcome to the meet. Then we have Dorje, who always prefers simple introduction. He calls himself with a simple name that I am just a member of Tibetan Parliament in Exile. He is also executive director of Students of Free Tibet. Then we are fortunate also to have with us prominent journalist, Francois Boucher. He's an author, he's a prominent journalist, historian, and a columnist. He founded Advancement of Cultural Ties, an NGO dedicated to portraying Indian history in a correct manner. Then we are very fortunate to have our India-based or Delhi-based journalist Asha Kaul with us. She's a senior independent journalist and author. She's the winner of the prestigious Prem Bhatia Award for Journalism. She has covered Kashmir's insurgency for a decade in the 1990s. So welcome, Francois, and welcome, Asha-ji. Thank you. You all coming from our journalistic roots. We are delighted to have you here. And then we have Kapil Mishra. He is Delhi-based BJP leader and author. He has championed, as many of you know, the pro-CAA movement in India. He is a crusader against corruption. I think many of you probably know about that too. And he has worked with Amnesty International and Greenpeace as well. Welcome, Kapilji, to the meet. Then last but not least, we have Jivinzatji, who is our co-host as well. He is the GKPD founding member and coordinator for California, for someone who has championed the cause of Kashmiri Hindu community here in US for decades. Welcome you all. With that brief introduction, I just want to quickly go to Rajiv Malhotra. So Rajivji, one thing I have I think we all heard about recent news about Chinese aggression happening around Ladakh borders. But we also know the overall nexus which is emerging between China and Pakistan, which has a lot of security concerns for Kashmir in general, for India as well. So I just want, but this I do know that this kind of challenges our security threat is much larger than that from there. And I know you have put a very original thought into that. So could you just share with us a kind of broader landscape about this Himalayan ambition of China and how it impacts Indian security and how it impacts this nexus of China and Pakistan, which has a lot of implications both for Kashmir as well as for occupied Kashmir as well. Rajivji. Rajivji, can you unmute, please? Unmute. Rajivji, can you please unmute? You're still. Yes, you're on now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're now. Good.
Yeah, I think the moderator muted everybody, which is good. But anyway, we're here. So namaste to all of you. I'm delighted to be here. I want to talk about China's Himalayan ambition. I have a book coming out in 2020. It's going to be out. I've been working on it for 3 years. Many of the things I've written, and a large part of it has to do with China, but a whole new dimension, a whole new way of looking at it. I will only touch the surface briefly because time is limited for this talk. And I've been working on this for 3 years. And it's interesting. I wish I had this book physically out before all these recent events happened, because I predicted some of these events. But I'm going further and talking about what is yet to come, which may not be very easy for a lot of Indians to accept. But let me just lay out my perspective on this whole thing. China is, before we talk about China, I want to say that the recent event concerning the celebration of Lord Ram and Ayodhya is so important that I want to give you one lesson that we should learn from it, which then applies to China. The lesson we can learn is that soft power is not enough by itself to win. Hard power is needed. Lord Ram had to use hard power. He couldn't just, it was not enough to go and convince somebody, give a soft power argument, moral argument, ethical argument, dharmic argument. That didn't work, wasn't going to work. So one of the important lessons I see is the importance of hard power. Same way in the Mahabharata, Sri Krishna, after so much discussion, trying so many arguments to convince the other side, has to advocate war. And so again, it is the use of hard power. Our Itihas teaches us the importance of hard power. Unfortunately, in recent times, we've forgotten the hard power. We think that telling people about yoga and telling people about 5,000-year-old history and all that is going to suffice. But culture is not the same thing as power. Culture has its value, it's very important, but hard power is hard power. And even the soft power that countries have depends on having hard power. So the United States has hard power, it can then on top of that can put up some soft power. But if you lack hard power, just soft power by itself is not going to be enough. And this is an important point to keep in mind when dealing with China. China understands hard power. So when it is not concerned about how people will think, whether the aesthetics are right. They're not interested in that. They're interested in very pragmatic gold, results, and that's what they're after. Now, China, if you want to understand China, and then we can see how India plays into it, you must know China is looking to be number one. So an athlete who's running to get the gold medal, he's looking ahead and saying that there is only one person ahead of me. I have to beat him. How do I beat him? He's not looking back at other people. So as far as China is concerned, India is one of those people running at the back. But China is only focusing on the US. China is focusing on the United States, how to beat and get ahead of the United States. Of course, it's a big US embarrassment and tragedy for having the blindness to build up China from a poor country by giving it investments, by giving it technology, by teaching it management, allowing it to steal a lot of technology, and then buying all the finished goods on the foolish assumption that, as they become democratic and rich and capitalistic, they'll start thinking like us and they'll also become our friends. It didn't work. So that was a very major disaster in American history. But from China's point of view, none of that matters. It's a very pragmatic goal. If US, with all that they did, could not win over China's heart, India has no chance of using positive things, saying, okay, we'll give some trade, we love them, we'll give them jhula, and we'll win them over. That is exceedingly naive. It is myopic. China only understands hard power. So as far as India is concerned, India is a country in the way. India is not a country they're trying to get ahead of. They're already 3-4 times the Indian economy. India is in the way because India could be a threat in the sense if it became big and successful, then it's very large and it could be used as a counterweight. India is also in the way geographically because for China to succeed, it is already colonized large parts of Africa for raw material and for selling them finished goods. And China wants access to Africa, which means going through the Indian Ocean. China also needs access to the Middle East for oil. So India is a big geographical giant that is, kind of in the way and a potential threat. So it has made Pakistan is important to China because Pakistan's territory is the access. Pakistan is just a road, a highway for rent. They rented the highway. Pakistan is like a colony. Also Myanmar. Also some other places. Now they're trying to take over Nepal. So taking over this Himalayan region after having illegally captured, Tibet, and now extending to the Indian Ocean via Myanmar and Pakistan is part of the Chinese plan to become a world power ahead of the United States. And now I think finally the United States has started understanding and getting the sense of this whole thing. So this pragmatic ambition has no qualms. It's like a high school bully who's not worried about his reputation. You cannot win them over by nice talk and making them feel good. They're not interested in feelings. They're interested in practical results. That's how they are. The China axis. We talk about India has the Quad because India has been pushed towards the US. So we got Japan, Australia, India, kind of a Quad. But China has Iran, Pakistan, Nepal. Okay, so they have Bangladesh, Myanmar. So it is not a trivial thing that we are dealing with. We are dealing with a very gigantic configuration with Chinese money, military, technology, economics, all of that. So this is going to be a serious thing that the Indian leaders need to get out of the emotional feel good, and Indian leaders need to get on with the business of building hard power. Now, when President Xi came to India, which was his first foreign trip when he became president to India, we focused on things like Jula and all, and yoga and this great old civilization, as if they're looking for soft power alliance. They are not. We misread China. Because China's goal has been publicly stated 25, 30 years ago that they want to beat the United States. They are interested in how India can help do that. So what India could have done is to say, we have the Navy, we have the Indian Ocean, we have the Andaman Islands. We can give you access in the Indian Ocean, provided you give us the Himalayas. If you help us in solving the issues in the Himalayas, we can help you. So that would be a hard power talk, a hard power deal. We give you this, you can give us that. We can be friends on hard power basis. But India didn't think clearly. It was more about how to win them there with culture and things of that sort. So the idea that soft power will win and hard power is less important is a terrible mistake that Indians have to come to terms with. Now, the issue of where India is in this whole game is become exceedingly dependent on Trump. And while Trump is much better for India than any other prior president has been in recent times, the fact is that he could be gone in November or January or 4 years later, because he cannot last more than 4 years by law. So there has to be a post-Trump thinking. And I'm not sure what the post-Trump thinking is, because we may have gone overboard in the hugging and alienated some other people. If Biden were to come to power in the United States, it would be pretty bad for India because the Pakistanis have infiltrated the Democratic Party in a very big way. Pakistanis have invested many years at the time of Hillary Clinton, and now this whole Clinton and Obama era is going to be, the successor would be Biden in case Biden won. So all the advisors, all the think tanks, all the academics, intellectuals who are in power in this new democratic system, Pakistanis have got their inroads into that. So if this were to happen, India would face an Afghanistan Talibanized because US is withdrawing. And with the withdrawal of US, with on one side Iran, on the other side Pakistan, neither of them that friendly to India, Afghanistan is not going to be possible to continue being as a friendly country for us. So you'll have a US withdrawn from that whole region, China getting into that region, US getting out of that region, okay? And this is going to be a very serious problem for India, and especially with their decision to expand into Nepal. The Chinese commitment to Nepal is huge. I really wish we also had a Nepali person on this panel, because I know some very good Nepali Hindus who would love to talk about it. And their view is that India made a big mistake letting down the Hindu king in the name of secularism and democracy and all kinds of foolish ideas. The Hindu king was a stabilizer, and the Nepal border is such a huge, long border right in the heartland of India. And a whole lot of the water that comes into the Ganga, it doesn't start in the Himalayas, it comes down from Nepal. The melting snow brings that water down, and that water is what makes it fertile. The whole Ganges plain, the Ganga plain. And now the technology exists with China to harness that water, make hydroelectric power plants, and then pipeline that water away towards Tibet if they want to. So having captured Tibet was a very serious problem for India. The capture of Tibet brought China into a whole new league in terms of the various Central Asian countries, South Asian countries. Had India resisted that, and it would have been a game changer in India's favor. Even now, I would propose, when people ask me what's the one thing you propose India should do, India should announce that Tibet is negotiable. Tibet is open. It is like they've said Ladakh, they've said Kashmir, they've said parts of Bhutan. I mean, they're saying everything about whatever we consider important, sacred, is all up for grabs. It's negotiable. We are friendly. We'll talk to you nicely. India should talk like that. India said Tibet is negotiable, but we're very happy to talk to you about it. This would be a very important statement, more important than all the positives that we are doing to try and work on trade and so on. I am glad, and I must, in the final point I want to make is, I am glad that Modi has taken a tough stand on cutting back on Chinese investments, Chinese technology. It's taken too long to do it, but better we have done it now than never. And there should be more efforts of this kind. Wherever a Chinese investment or Chinese technology can be substituted by somebody else, maybe Japan can come in, maybe US can come in, maybe India can develop its own, it would be a good message for China. The amount that we buy from China is far, far greater than the amount we export to China. It's not going to bring the Chinese economy down because it's a small part of their export worldwide, but it will send a message. It will show that we have a spine, and it might encourage other countries to stand up in that way. At the same time, I don't think India should go too much into the hugging of Donald Trump. It's okay to have US as an ally and US as a friend, but not at the expense of alienating, because he's a polarizing figure, and he does alienate a whole lot of people within the country and outside the country, and India has to have good relations with them also. And finally, that means Putin and Russia. India cannot afford to let them be pushed away towards Pakistan. Russia has good relations with China already, with Iran already, and the part of their access that Russia has not supported is Pakistan. So we don't want to fool around with that. This means it's a tough situation for diplomacy, for national security, needs new thinking. We need Purva Paksha of China. We haven't had Purva Paksha of China. They started preparing for these invasions long ago. I mean, we have these satellites that are supposed to be telling us what's going on, but we were sleeping. We don't have scholars, we don't have spies, we just haven't done the Purva Paksha of China. So these are some of my thoughts. I would love to have more time to discuss and go back and forth in Q&A, but this is the time that was allotted. And so I thank you for giving me this opportunity and wish you all the best. I'll have to take leave, but I wish you all the best. And congratulations for the first year anniversary that you are celebrating with many, many more good ones to come. Namaste. I think he's on mute.
Thank you.